T. Show. Somebody said, it's a podcast, Henry T. I have no idea. I've been doing TV for 155 years. I've never heard the word pod. But I'm going to look it up because I have a Webster's dictionary close by. So for now, we'll just call it the Henry T. Show. And I am so elated to be on our Facebook page, of course. Henry T. Live, Game Face, Henry T. Game Face Live. Write that down. Henry T. Game Face Live. And we're also on the huge, I mean, this is big time, ProView Network Internet throughout the globe, and then live on Channel 26 as well. Wow. All that talk makes Henry T nervous. It just says thousands of people all over the globe, New Mexico, all over the state is going to watch this show today. And I'm so happy they're going to watch because they're going to see something very special. I have a close friend. He was a professor for many years at Highlands University. And suddenly a makeshift long distance running coach, cross country, you heard that term, track and field, all wrapped up into one. Dr. Ron Maestas, he's a New Mexico Sports Hall of Famer, recently inducted into that strong, very elite fraternity, if you will, the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. Dr. Ron Maestas inducted last year. And you say, gee, why? You got to be pretty special to be in that group. And he is. What he accomplished with very little. One day he was a professor teaching in a classroom, and the next day they added a new responsibility to his already busy schedule. They said, Dr. Maestas, you're now the cross-country coach. He said, okay, what is cross-country? Not really, but they handed him a book. Read this. It's all about cross-country. He read it thoroughly, read it front to back several times, and he said, I guess I'm a coach now. But you know what I'm talking, just joking around here. But he met with his runners, had to recruit them from all around New Mexico, all New Mexico runners. And he put it together, and the story is phenomenal. Right away, they found the winning formula. And right away, boy, Dr. Maestas was an overnight success because of hard work and great planning and great young athletes that he convinced and motivated and inspired to be national championship caliber. Today we go live to Las Vegas, New Mexico to meet this special man. His story is compelling. It'll motivate you. It'll even break your heart a little bit. And if you're soft, a little bit soft emotionally, you better go get some Kleenex right now because you're going to have to wipe the tears, the sacrifice that they had to go through because of limited funds and how they traveled in a little tiny white van across the country. It's a major, major compelling story. Are we ready for Doctor? Yes. Let's go to Las Vegas, New Mexico. Bring in Dr. Ron Maestas, former long-distance coach at Highlands University. Doctor, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are
what
you?
A story. I'm great. And every time I hear your story, I get better and better. there's nothing to complain about when you hear your story, because you went through every sacrifice possible that a coach could go through, and athletes too. You're on stage. Tell us your story from beginning to end.
Okay, well, first of all, I need to tell you, you pulled me out for making a snowman. You know, we're getting dumped on
Snowing in Vegas?
big time.
Wow.
So you're going to have to come help me finish the snowman.
Well, you have achieved a lot of
But
things.
1977,
Say that again?
in 1977, I had just finished my doctoral work at Arizona State University. A bunch of runners came into my office. They needed a cross-country coach. And I said, okay. So what do I have to do? He says, well, go talk to the athletic director. The athletic director was Jim Marshall. I actually wanted to be the wrestling coach. But he says, I don't need a wrestling coach. I need a cross-country coach. So, and then he grabs a book off of his shelf, hands me a cross-country book, and said, here, you're my cross-country coach. So I began to read the book, like I said, forward and backward. I had to pound the pavement to find me some runners. I did have a core: James Branch, Lawrence Naranjo, Gerald Naranjo, Cleo Naranjo, Joe Garcia, all New Mexico kids. So we were members of the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. And of course, if you wanted to compete, you had to run with the big dogs or stay on the porch. So guess what we decided to do? Compete. In our conference, we had Dr. Joe Hill. I used to meet him at different places where we would run. Gunnison, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Golden. Up for a jog, I'd turn the conversation over real quick to what were the workouts. The minute I get back into my motel room, I would write those workouts down, and those became our workouts for the following week. So little by little, step by step, mile for mile, we found ourselves right in the thick of things, and we were running with the best teams in the nation. Adams State College, Western State College, Colorado School of Mines, Colorado State University of Pueblo, Fort Lewis. It was really a very competitive conference. Soon enough, we started placing third, and then we placed second, qualified for the national championships in 1978. I took a young man by the name of Lawrence Naranjo, a fine ex-man out of Espanola, to the national meet. A national meet was at Kenosha, Wisconsin, right off Lake Michigan in late November. Colder than it is in Alamosa, colder than it was in Las Vegas. The wind coming in. So thereafter, 1978, for the next 10 years, we had a standing reservation because we qualified as a team. In 1983, we finished fourth at nationals. In 1984, we finished fourth at nationals. And in 1987, we finished second. All New Mexico kids.
When you have that sort of a challenge and you're recruiting, how did you sell these athletes that you were legit, that they could actually compete? And just from the beginning, how do you motivate? How do you inspire? What's your message to them?
Well, you know, we didn't have a bunch of blue chippers. We had those kids that were second and third at state. All the blue chippers were going up to Alamosa. New Mexico is very good to Adams State College, but I knew that if we wanted to compete with the best, we had to train like the best. And little by little, we started seeing results. We started placing high. You know, we also competed against University of New Mexico, UTEP, New Mexico State University, and we were beating them. In essence, I don't claim to be a magician, but you know, the runners that I had made a mediocre coach look great. And I tell you one thing: you can't make chicken salad out of chicken feathers. You have to have some talent. And my kids, I put them next to anybody else, were awesome. They would train anywhere from 80, 90 to 100 miles a week. On Sundays, we used to have a recovery run, long, slow distance, 25 miles. So that makes them strong physically.
Well, your terrain
Makes them tough psychologically.
Your terrain is natural for distance runners or cross-country runners. It's so beautiful up there in northern New Mexico, in Las Vegas. The mountains are many, but you had one particular mountain that you chose to be the workout place. Tell us about your track, your home.
About 15 miles out of Las Vegas, northwest, is a place called Johnson's Mesa. It's also known as Hermit's Peak. We would train there at least once a week at elevation of about 10,500 feet.
Wow.
Once a week. Rare air. And when you train at that level, of course, you develop the lungs and the whole metabolic attributes. You don't burn blood cells that easy. You can run harder, you can run faster. And of course, our national meet in Kenosha, Wisconsin was about 100 feet in elevation. So we had about a 10 to 15 or maybe even 20% advantage in competing at that level. You know, we would have, like I mentioned before, races in Albuquerque. UNM would not come to Las Vegas to run altitude. Their athletes weren't used to running at that altitude. But we could go to Albuquerque, but they wouldn't come here. Same thing with New Mexico State. They would invite us to go there, but they wouldn't come up here. They couldn't handle the distance. They couldn't handle the altitude. So we were blessed. We have a number of other areas that we used. I had a riverbed about 2 miles long that was nothing but sand. And of course that really develops the legs. When you run for 3 or 4 repeats of 2 miles, 8 to 10 miles, the legs get pretty firm.
Wow. And as you saw this developing,
the secret is high altitude training.
As you saw this physiological miracle happen in front of your eyes, because you're brand new with this, what did you instantly learn about the human body and its capabilities?
I learned that it takes dedication and it takes intestinal fortitude to train under that mileage and in those locations. I used to take my runners up to Mora. I don't know if you're familiar with Mora.
Very much so.
There's a mountain called Holman Hill, and I would let them off at the base of Holman Hill, and they'll run up 20, 25 miles. And I tell you what, those kids were motivated. I think my biggest strength was not only reading and preparing against some of the workouts from my friend Dr. Joe Vigil, but I think that my strength was that I could motivate them, because I had some high quality runners. I had 4 Naranjos from Espanola. I had 5 Romeros from Santa Fe High School. I had 4 Willies from the San Felipe, Santa Fe Indian School area, and those kids would run. And of course, with the Native Americans, of course, they grow up doing their feast days, having their foot races, and they could run. So success, little by little, one year to the next. I started taking my athletes to Kansas. We ran against Kansas, University of Kansas, Kansas State, Wichita State. We were there at a meet, and it was funny because I had called home to let my wife know how we had done. And there was a coach from southwestern Kansas that was on the phone. I think he was talking to his athletic director. And I overheard him saying, we came within 150 points of Highlands University. As I listened to that, I said, oh my gosh. So I then knew that we had a quality program. When you're running with those D1 schools and somebody says, we only got beat by 150 points, that's pretty big. That's pretty encouraging.
Now, tell us about the enormous...
So I took my kids to run, Arizona.
Coach, tell us
what was that again?
Well, I can't hear you, and we're breaking up, so I apologize. Tell me about the enormous budget that and that beautiful, brand new vehicle that you drove in across the country.
We had a budget of $10,000 for scholarships, for travel, for the coach's salary. I'm not embarrassed to say that my salary was $1,000 at the beginning, and 10 years later, I was still making $1,000. And that $1,000 probably went back into the kids, because sometimes I had to buy a book for them or get them some groceries, you know. But I didn't do it for the money. I was not into it for the money. The van that we had was a small little van. We packed in 12 runners. We were like a can of sardines. Of course, the runners themselves were kind of small and don't take up a lot of space. But what I also did is I also used my $10,000 to create a women's program. And my women's program became as successful as the men. We had the women make 3 trips to the national championships. Now, I need to tell you something. We only had cross country teams in our conference that had indoor track, outdoor track, cross country. In my opinion, those kids were full-time athletes, where my kids were full-time students and part-time athletes. I wish we would have had track and field, but at that point, Highlands has never been known to have an abundance of money. We had to compete with football, basketball, baseball. The athletic director was baseball. And I don't know what his budget was, but my budget was peanuts compared to everybody else.
My goodness. When I picture you and your team traveling in a little, what color was the van?
It was a little white van.
Little white van, packed into that little white van like sardines, and lunch, what, in a paper bag or in a lunch box? And what was in the lunch as you drove across the country? And hopefully the person in the back of the van traveling in the winter or the fall was warm enough to be comfortable. That whole scene is indescribable. It's like, really? Under these conditions? They went and competed and they ran and competed for championships? Limited budget, you weren't eating steaks, and you're in a little white van. That is a book that somebody should write.
Well, let me tell you, the students that were staying in the dorms would have a meal plan, and I'd go to the cafeteria and tell them I needed their meal for the day we were gone. I don't know, they would pack us bologna sandwiches, potato chips, whatever. And I'd split those up among the other ones that were not in the dorms. Then as we were traveling, I guess we could have gone ourselves a sponsorship at First Cafeteria, because I'd take them in there and I'd say, well, you guys eat right now, whatever you're going to eat. And then we'd go to the next town, 300 miles down the road, and stop at another First Cafeteria. But we had to do the best that we could. The first year that we qualified for, they give a real nice trophy to the first 4 teams. I had to call the athletic director back and tell him that how well we had done, and ask him if I would charge my credit card, could I take these kids out to give them a steak dinner. And by that time, the athletic director was a guy by the name of Orlando Brown. He said, go ahead. And of course, I fed them well.
Wow.
That meal that night cost me about $300-400 on my credit card.
The other teams around you, the big schools, schools equal to you in size or whatever, what was their reaction when tiny little Highlands University is suddenly beating them? What was the reaction that you recall?
Well, I will tell you that on one day we were racing at Southern Colorado at Pueblo, and we were coming home. I had made a mistake. We beat Adams State on that day, and of course Joe Villa is a gentleman. You know, even to this day we keep in communication. He tells me, Ron, I'm proud of you. You always worked hard for your kids. And let me tell you about Joe Villa. He would, at Nationals, and there's a field of 500 runners. 2 minutes before the race would start, he would come over personally, tell my kids, you guys are ready, run with us. And no other coach in the NAIA would do that. But I really appreciated him doing that. Worked. Because the starting at 500 runners in about 3/4 of a mile narrows down into a path. And what you have to do is you have to get a quick start. So for the first half mile, it's a sprint. If you don't get out in the front, you're going to get sucked in the back and you won't pass anybody. You know, but he taught me that trick. And of course, it worked for us every year after that.
Now, when you saw the shape that your athletes were in because of the tall mountains that you trained on in Las Vegas, from the start of the race, could you tell by just looking the eye test that your athletes' legs looked stronger, that your athletes looked like they could handle any physical challenge because of where you trained? And then to the mental part, were they truly motivated for that challenge, physically and mentally?
Those kids at the starting line would be mesmerized. They only had one thing in mind, and that was to get out and get out quick. After that, 450 runners behind you give you reason enough to keep you up in the lead. They would push you. So the mesmerizing that took place, they gave 150%. I would be at the finish line. I would be at various points during the race trying to encourage them all along. And by the end of the race at the finish line, to show you how hard they were running, I would have to pick them up, carry them off the course. They were that expended. But I tell you what, they represented Highlands University, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, state of New Mexico very, very well. I did have a Native American, Alfred Willie from San Felipe Pueblo, freshman, made All-American. I had Fabian Trujillo, 4-time All-American. And that's a tremendous feat. I had a young man by the name of Benny Chavez. He's now a doctor, a medical doctor. 2-time academic All-American. I had James Branch. I don't know if you know James Branch.
Very well.
He's not very tall, is he?
No, he's not.
So when you move those small legs, you have to do the leg rotation much harder and much faster. He was right up there in the front. I tell James Branch, he thinks he's a basketball coach. And I tell him, I says, I think you were a runner. I said, how many times did you go to nationals in basketball? And he said, none. How many times did you go to nationals in cross country? He said, 3. I said, okay, now tell me, what are you? He said, a runner, I guess. But I had a lot of fun with these kids.
The thing about James Branch, he's a competitor.
Absolutely.
As a coach, if the coaching motivational skills sank into him under your guidance, all the athletes that he ever taught or coached rather in basketball or whatever, they received the inherited Dr. Maestas treatment through Coach Branch. And now they know that method, that formula. And it is a winning formula. I'm going to ask you a very serious question. Knowing you, you've already begun the book, or it's finished already. What can you teach all of us about the human body and the thousands of coaches around the country, cross-country coaches, long-distance running coaches? What can you teach them about what you discovered in your athletes?
Well, I discovered the quality of dedication. Dedication to yourself, dedication to your teammates, and dedication to your coach. The respect that they have for themselves inside is a direct result of days and days and years of training. Training at, for the summer, for example, I would require them to run 1,000 miles. So then when they returned to campus, they were in shape to get into racing shape. So it's dedication. Cross country, especially training, can be a very lonely sport when you're out there running 15, 20, 25 miles. So you have to be dedicated. You have to love what you're doing. So there are no limits. There are no limits of what the human body can accomplish if you concentrate 9 inches above your shoulders. And that is the mental toughness that comes along with this particular sport.
You know, this is an unbelievable story. To the thousands of people watching today and hearing you deliver that story to them for the first time. You saw it every day. You saw this miracle take place in front of you. As you are driving the van down the highway, you look in the rearview mirror or glance to your right or left side. You saw these dedicated young student athletes reading their books, studying along the way, hungry. They go to their little brown bag, get their apple and orange and their bologna sandwich. What did that mean to you emotionally when you thought, did it hit your heart as to what these athletes were doing for you because you're their leader, you are the coach for each other as teammates? The whole story, what did it mean to you? And I'm asking you because if I'm driving in the van, I look back and see all that dedication and love behind me, and they're working for each other, Highlands, the state of New Mexico, and they're ready. Man, that's an emotional setting. How did you hold back the tears?
Well, they taught me to respect them, and they all earned all of my respect. It's that respect that drove me into doing the best that we could. You know, I have a cliche that if you want to run with the big dogs, if not, stay on the porch. So you really have to work afternoon at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. So we would do workouts twice a day. Now I had this Fabian Trujillo, four-time All-American. I learned in his senior year, he was working out 3 times a day. 5 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at noon, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now that takes dedication. And that's what produces a 4-time All-American. He wanted it so bad that you can almost taste it. And I was just tickled to death that he did it. You know, most of these kids would run and train like a horse. Fabian Trujillo had the legs that I would just enjoy watching him run. I could have put his running style to music. He was one of the strongest runners to produce his PRs, personal bests, at the national meet when it counted. The bigger the race, all these kids, gave me an additional effort. None of those kids were lighthearted.
Now, doctor, today they're all successful. Doctors, attorneys, teachers, professors, all of them have a degree. I mean, it's the complete success story. How about that part of it?
Well, again, that just goes to my earlier statement. You can't make chicken salad out of chicken feathers or chicken shit. Those kids learned what it takes to succeed. And again, you know, I would have weekly grade checks. If they're not doing their their job in the classroom. They're not going to do their job training. So I made sure I stayed on top of them.
Doctor, today, how many phone calls, how many personal visits when they are driving through New Mexico or intentionally driving through Las Vegas to find you, to shake your hand, introduce you to their kids, their wife, and say, this is the man. This is Dr. Maestas. Without him, I wouldn't have what I have today. I thank this man. How many thanks do you get over the years from those champions?
Almost daily, I get a phone call.
Wow.
You know, I have one of my former runners that's a superintendent of schools in Minnesota, in Massachusetts, at Plymouth. He was originally from Espanola, attended McCurdy High School. He's constantly calling me. He sent me the other day a copy of a song that Kenny Chesney wrote called Coach. If you ever get a chance to look it up, listen to that song, because that song talks about everything that we went through in training and competing and enjoying the national limelight.
I mean, they're literally in the van studying, very little light, if any, getting the real job done. Wow, what a tribute to you, Coach, for what you did to instill in them that strong character. And it's living with them even to this day, because every one of them still gives it their 100% every day, because they don't know another way. God bless you, Coach, for what you did to inspire and motivate those young athletes. And just think how it spread throughout the people, their family, their young children and friends. Just think how your leadership has spread across the country through these young athletes. That's an amazing story. We congratulate you, Coach, for a job more than well done. React to that.
Well, you know, I do need to tell you that I had several runners, Native American runners from the northwest corner, Crown Point, Shiprock, Thoreau, Fort Wingate. They all called me now during the pandemic. You know, that area northwest, New Mexico and Arizona, took it hard. And they would call me. One of them just came to visit me just last week. They want to tell me that they're doing well. I had a guy by the name of James at City, a fabulous runner. I had a runner from Shiprock called Leroy James, Virgil House. I had several from the Una Acoma teams. And again, those kids do come from some very good, solid high school programs. Their coaches at the Laguna Acoma, Shiprock, and Gallup, and so forth were phenomenal. So New Mexico has some really talented individuals, but they've been not only my runners, but good, close friends. Some of them are 50, 55 years old, and they still don't forget Coach.
Doctor, because of all this success, because of this brand new story to most of us, it's hitting the hearts of many today across New Mexico and across the world, for that matter. You've been recently inducted for all that success and your dedication. You've been inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame, recognized in this elite group. Wow. That's just a little tiny bit given back to you, but it honors you and all your student athletes. Being enshrined into that elite group, the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame, what does that mean to you?
Oh, I tell you, I'm so happy to be a part of that group. You know, people like Dr. Tony Sandoval, Dr. Chuck Aragon, all those individuals were running when I was coaching. I look at people like the great broadcaster Henry T. as a fellow inductee, Don Woods. That class that I went in with just an additional members of my family. I try to still stay involved with the board of directors, and I see some of the nominees, and I said, oh my God. And I got in before they did. Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero, all these individuals. Now, I don't know but if I should let this out of the barrel, but I'm going to try hard to nominate Chito Reyes. He has sent me a booklet of his accomplishments. And, you know, he played in the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. And he grew up in southern New Mexico, lived with his grandmother at Gadsden. His mother still lives down south. Gloria is phenomenal. I've gone to where we've had some really good conversations. I call him, he calls me. I've got another individual by the name of Hank Olguin. Hank Olguin was raised in Silver City. He played in the Rose Bowl. He's written an award-winning book called Who Let the Mexicans Play in the Rose Bowl. There are some outstanding individuals out in this country that came from New Mexico, New Mexicans. And Chito Reyes is just a top-notch. Well, you know what you know. I heard when you were going to take him on with a new pair of shoes and a new basketball, and you're going to shoot some baskets. And I heard you tell, was it the other day that you didn't want to play pig or horse, you want to play a game to 21. Well, those are some outstanding individuals in UNM, New Mexico State, Highlands University. The show you had with Joey Harge, what a tremendous family. New Mexico born. He is so proud of his brother. And you know, his brother is probably one of the easiest guys to call games for. As an official, I called many games that Ira Jr. Coached. But you know, I want to share something else with you. I'm not sure you're aware, but I recently published a book on profiles of prominent Adams State College graduates. And that book has been nominated for the International Latino Book Awards.
Wow.
There's another athlete that unfortunately I never had the chance to recruit him. He was a young man from El Rito, New Mexico, by the name of Jerry Garcia, five times state champion. Jerry Garcia was phenomenal. He came to Highlands to work on his master's, and I helped him in social work. I invited him to train with my kids so that my kids could see what a real runner was like. And to this day, he still thanks me for that opportunity. But there's some wonderful people out there. And it's those people that have made Ron Maestas, including my lovely wife, my own family, my sons and daughters. They were very supportive while Dad was out on the road Sometimes I missed some of the games, but they supported everything I did.
Gee. I'm sure a book or a motion picture should be written about your life story as a coach, all your athletes, and tell me, have you already written the book, or is that coming soon?
No, I've written a number of other books. Um I wrote a 3-volume set of Hispanic colonial traditional art. You know Adan Carriaga.
Oh yeah,
You know the Adan that played at Albuquerque High, Bulldog.
yes.
Have you ever seen the work that he does?
It's incredible. I have.
It is amazing, and it's people like him that I featured in this 3-volume series, 2,500 pages, full color of their art, full biographies. It's just amazing. You'd be
Well,
surprised. You'd be surprised what a pandemic will do to your writing skills.
and then we haven't mentioned your beautiful wife and your children who are also well accomplished. So, you know that it's a fable. You say, generosity starts at home, extra effort starts at home, and you give an extra effort and then some to your beautiful family. Tell us that part, that huge part of Dr. Ron Maestas.
Well, I have a daughter and 2 sons. I kind of feel sorry for them because their mother had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. Their dad had a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree. So for them, there was a pressure on them to get educated. My daughter is a very successful certified public accountant and graduated from law school. My son is a public defender, one of the best public defenders in the state of New Mexico. He was in Albuquerque, and my young son is a PhD in engineering and works at Sandia Labs. Now that's a lot of degrees.
Amazing.
They all did
Amazing.
well. I had
Now
two.
you know, ladies and gentlemen, why Dr. Maestas is in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. But he could be in many other Hall of Fames as well.
Well, they get it.
And it's now that we're really finally discovering who this famous man truly is in his heart, in his mind, socially, the love that he spreads like wildfire. But all that love began at home, and it's still at home. His family is nice, they're humble, they're motivated, they're leaders in all their respective fields. And coach, you still have more gas in the tank because of how active you are. Plus, he's a highly respected referee in the New Mexico Association. All the sports. Is there something you haven't done?
Well, I haven't finished my snowman. I'm gonna go after we finish here. I'm gonna go finish the snowman.
And you'll probably get an award for that too.
Well, I need to tell you, my wife is the brains of the family. I may be a little hard to live with, but she has been the best wife that I could have and the best mother for my kids.
Amazing. What a story. What an honor to spend this time with you today. And I really meant that as serious as I could possibly be. What is in the future for you? Are there other goals that you seek out because you're such an adventurous man? What else do you truly want to get into, begin, create, or find out about?
Well, I will tell you, I've decided to retire from officiating. 53 years is long enough. And kids are getting too fast. They're getting too big. So, to be honest with you, I'm going to become a spectator. But as I become a spectator, I am not going to yell at any referee out there, whoever they are, because referees are a unique breed. You know, you put on the whistle. You know, it's not uncommon for you to make a call and 50% of the people are against you, and then you turn around on the opposite end of the floor and 50% of those that were for you, cheering for you, are now cheering against you. So it doesn't take too many trips up and down the floor to where you're then running negative splits. You know what I mean? You make everybody equally unhappy. So I've enjoyed these with the NMAA. I started officiating when Eugene Montgomery was the director of the NMAA. Dan Salsweedel. There's Gary Tripp, you know, Dr. Gary Tripp, Sally Marcus now. You know, that's a long time.
As we wrap up our show here in our final minute, I would just like to say thank you to you for what you do for me. Yes, Dr. Maestas has become a close friend of mine. His story is so compelling, it motivates me. I will not complain as much as I complain about little things, because he's gone through the challenge. He's been in the fire. And you heard his great story today. How does somebody find you? By telephone or email to just ask a helping hand from me, doctor, in our last 15 seconds.
What was that again? You broke out a little bit.
Well, we're out of time, so we'll put it on the screen. God bless you. Thank you for being with us today.
Okay, thank you. And you thank Jimmy Tran for all the work that he does behind the scenes. Have a good day.
Have a great day.
You too.
Gentlemen, that's our story today. Wow, what a story. Until we meet again next Monday, be careful in this pandemic and the snow that's been unexpected as well. Thank you to this great place, ProView, and thank you to Jimmy Tran and all our staff here at ProView. And I'd like to say, Amastory Drywall, thank you again for all you do. The Hydro Bar up on Montgomery, 7400, the most delicious water you will ever taste. And I'm going to take a gulp of this when we're done. Hydro Bar and delicious water, 7400 Montgomery Northeast. I'm Henry T. Have a great day. On Monday or Friday, you're going to meet our little intern, and Aiden Atencio is his name, and you'll love this young man. He wants to be a broadcaster. I've gone over my time. Have a great day. See you soon.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional